guys, Aubrey from the Witchbone here. Just wanted to do a video on my top 3 decks at the moment. I have the Margaret Peterson, the Earthbound Oracle, and the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. I know I always talk about working with decks together, and quite a few people have said, you know, how do you work with tarot decks together? Like, a lot of people work with tarot and oracle together, but they're not really sure how to work with 2 tarot decks together. And it's really not that difficult at all. You just get a kind of different flavor and a different kind of intuitive feel with the other deck. And it's always best to try to mix and match some of these decks to see what you might get. And it doesn't make any sense to only look at the artwork. Like, if you have Wild Unknown artwork, that means that you can only use simplistic woodlandy type decks with that. No, it doesn't mean that at all. Just like fashion, mixing and matching can go together really well. It can create a whole new look. And with tarot decks, it can create a whole new message. And you can get more than you would with just one deck. It opens up new fields of vision. That's kind of what it does to me when I work with all these decks together. Now, when you think of the Pagan Otherworlds and the Margaret Peterson, they're in no way alike. You know, one is quite abstract, and the other is very, I would say, medieval, Renaissance-y. There are some people in the Margaret Peterson, but they're really hard to make out. It's, like I said, very abstract. And then you have totally different artwork with the Earthbound Oracle. Very simplistic, very witchy, very pagan-y. But they seem to all complement each other. For instance, we have the 3 of Coins from the Margaret Peterson. And we have Air from the Earthbound Oracle. Queen of Swords from the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. I like to think of this message as reconnect to your thoughts. We get the very earthy feel from the Margaret Peterson right now. But then we have the affirmation of air and the Queen of Swords. And I love in the Pagan Otherworlds how she's sitting atop a mountain. And you have the sky and the birds around her. It looks like she's in the sky. It forces you to work outside of your comfort zone, work outside of the box, and you get a clearer message than you would have, a more complex message than you would have of just using one deck. And here we have renewal, permanence, and the world. From this message, it's actually quite personal for me. It's a question. How do you feel your life is going right now? Now that you've made these changes. You know, right now I have made quite a few painful changes in my life to get to my goal. I looked at what it is that I want, what it is that I wanted, and figured out that the way to get there was not my current path. So I had to hit a wall, and I had to meet a sort of judgment. I had to erase certain things from my life and get rid of certain toxic people and things, and I had to let go of some things. And in a way, now I feel like the pen is finally striking the paper, if that makes any sense. I feel like I have kind of recalibrated back to the track that I need to go. And I do feel a shift. I feel a shift in the ground beneath me. I feel like now I am on the path I'm supposed to be. Like, this was a good move. So you see how these all kind of play off of each other. When you work with just one deck, it's hard to pull yourself from that artwork. And it's okay. Obviously, I'm not saying that working with one deck is any way bad. It's not. Working with one deck can be great if that type of artwork is going to be good for you right now. If this feel of this deck is what you need right now, then that's what you should read with. But if you're looking for a deeper message, a more complex message, if you're not feeling a particular draw to one deck, you know, we always have that moment where we just need to work with the Wild Unknown, you know, or we just need to work with the Pagan Otherworld, something like that. That is your inner self being drawn to that for a reason. You need a message from that deck at that time. But if you're not, or you're feeling lost, it's best to pull a bunch of them, even if you don't think they'll go together, especially if you think they won't go together. And try out certain spreads, you know. This spread with these 3 decks works perfect for me. Set them up. Sometimes when you put them in different orders, they seem like they don't go together. And if you just move them around, something kind of clicks. So just play around with your decks and find that click, and make sure that you write down what decks of yours work best together. That way you don't forget. It's best to journal it too. Journal your spread, how you laid them out, what deck in what place. And you can make these spreads as small or as large as you want. But this is an excellent way to, when you're not feeling particularly drawn to one deck at the time, to kind of get yourself out of it. You know, you get the message from, say, the Margaret Peterson, and then you're pulled away from that artwork and you're pulled to the Earthbound Oracle. And then you get the message from that. It's a way of training your intuitive side of your brain to be able to receive and let go. Receive and let go. It's kind of like cleaning that channel. You know, and here we have, you know, stopping the overspending. So there we are able to save for what we need. So that we're able to have cushion money, what me and my husband like to call it. Very simple message with these 3, but you can make it as complex as you want, just like any other reading. But you see how they complement each other, and they all are in the same part of our story, our message, but they each have a different contribution. The artwork is different, the feel is different, the energy is different, but they come together and they make something. I often get asked the very silly question of what happens when you pull the same card between your 2 or 3 or however many tarot decks that you're using. Say we have 2 devils. But what does that mean? Well, obviously the devil is reinforced in this message, but look at the 2 different devils. We all have those decks where the devil of the Margaret Peterson might mean something different than the devil in the Pagan Otherworlds. So you see how it forces you to break out of those constructs? It kind of gets you out of that pip mentality. You know, some of us really love pip decks, and I do too, but at some point it does get to the point where it constricts you. Just like with the Jacoli tarot. I love that tarot deck, but as soon as I got it, I cut off the words. I did not want to associate those beautiful paintings with the tarot system because it just didn't match. They just didn't work. And every time I would look at them, same with the Marielle, I cut the words off that too, because I would read 7 of Wands and I would think 7 of Wands instead of what her meaning was in her artwork and what I got from it. It was very conflicting. So this is a way to push you outside of those constructs, like I said, and see the difference in the same cards. The difference in the devil of this deck than this deck. So that's my idea behind working with the 3 different decks. I do have plenty of others that I use. I did a video on my favorite deck combinations. And those were mostly decks that complemented each other, but in this video I did want to touch on the fact that they don't have to complement each other on artwork alone. They don't really have to complement each other at all when you look at them straight on. Just start working with them and see what comes out. And it's okay if you start working with a couple decks and you're like, these just they're not doing anything. That's perfectly fine. But just giving it a try, pushing yourself out of your limits that you're setting right now, and you might find something truly remarkable. So give combination reading a try and see how it works for you.